Welcome to Autism Parenting Summit, brought to you by our sponsors. Platinum sponsor, Hardy Nutritionals. For over 20 years, Hardy Nutritionals has helped people improve mental wellness naturally. Their research-backed micronutrient formulas are trusted by healthcare professionals worldwide to support mood, focus, and emotional resilience without the side effects of traditional treatments. Behavior Help. Behavior Help provides positive behavior support services and resources to educate, empower, and enable you to help people of all ages learn positive ways for behaving and managing emotions. Linear Autism Method. When parents feel they are out of options, the linear autism method is proven to increase functional and social behaviors by working with the true nature of children with autism. This naturally reduces anger, meltdowns, and aggression, and allows them to thrive. Stem Cell Institute. Stem Cell Institute offers parents of neurodivergent children the opportunity to address their challenges through advanced stem cell therapy, giving their family the opportunity for a better future, free from limitations. Gold sponsors. Algonaut. Algonaut produces natural dietary supplements designed to support cognitive function and reduce inflammation. Their products contain pure flavonoids and olive oil for enhanced absorption. These supplements aim to help individuals, including those with autism, by reducing brain inflammation and therefore promoting brain health and clarity. GAT Brain Axis Therapeutics Incorporated. Gut Brain Axis Therapeutics is developing microbiota transplant therapy for treating gastrointestinal symptoms and autism symptoms. Autism Parenting Magazine. Join a thriving community of families and unlock the potential of your child. Autism Learning Network. Join a community that understands. Unlock a wealth of resources. Access expert advice, practical tools, and shared wisdom. Silver sponsor. NeuroFree. NeuroFree provides cell infusion therapy for children and adolescents with autism. The therapy involves tissue that was provided by the mother, collected by a plastic surgeon, processed in a FDA-registered lab that complies with FDA regulations, and infused into the patient's bloodstream via a 2.5-hour intravenous process. Bronze sponsor. Mimbleball. Mimbleballs offer pathways for spontaneous parent-child and sibling connections by intuitively creating moments of shared delight, effortless comfort, and restorative calm, easing and enriching family and therapeutic interactions.
Thank you so much for joining us for the Autism Parenting Summit. My name is Sharon Longo, and I'll be your host for the Q&A session titled Securing Your Child's Future. We're thrilled to have Susan Tatum with us today. Susan is the founder of Bright Path for Autism, and she's an autism advocate and coach, an international best-selling author, and a speaker, YouTuber, and a producer and host of the TV show Puzzle Parents. She's also a proud mom to an incredible daughter with autism who inspires her life's work. So please join me in welcoming Susan Tatum. So first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
So just first question that I wanted to ask is, what advice would you give to parents who are just starting their journey?
So I would say to take a deep breath. Again, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And if you're just beginning, I would say the first thing you need to do is network. I'm huge on networking, network. That's what I tell my people, because you can't do it alone. And you're only as good as what you know. So the more you know, the better you're able to help your child or your loved one. And that is powerful. So I would definitely network. Make sure that you are starting to plan ahead. If your child's just been diagnosed, you want to look at not just what do they need now, how can I help them now, but what is that going to look like when they get older, into adulthood? What do I want the end goal to be? and how can I help facilitate them there? What do I need to do first? Who can I find to help me with that? And what do I need to do after that? That's the only 3 questions you have to ask yourself. I call it the 3 rights: right now, right person, right after. And I find that if you take overwhelming things and you break it down into those 3 pieces, it's a lot more manageable. It takes away that overwhelm and it really focuses you in on where you need to be at that moment.
Right, right. That makes sense too. That's a great way to think of it, the 3 rights. Yeah. All right. So, what are the primary considerations for families when planning long-term care for a child with autism?
Absolutely. There are the big 3, and this is in any situation that you encounter. It's health, safety, and welfare. So, safety first, you want to make sure that you have things in place that are going to help facilitate the safety of your loved one, whether that is having an aide that you have set up to come in with them, whether they need to be in a supported living environment, whether they just need to have some supports in the home. Like now they have the smart houses where you can have the locks and the lights and different things set up, different things like that. And you also want to make sure that you have trusted people within that network that you can say, okay, if I'm not here, who's going to step up into my shoes and make sure that the person that I love is going to be taken care of? And then you also want to make sure that you look into the other options. We talked a second ago about supported living. I'm not talking about nursing homes. I'm not talking about group homes because that's different. I'm talking about a supported living environment where either they have an apartment in a all neurotypical apartment building and you just have supports from the community come in to make sure they're taking their meds, paying their bills, staying on their appointments, meeting the social challenges and things like that. Or there are popping up a lot more, and I'm very excited about this, supported living environments all across the globe where they have apartment complexes where, let's say, you have maybe 3 or 4 people with autism in units, and then one unit is for the neurotypical caregiver, where that person is checking in on them. If they have a problem, they can go to that person and say, hey, I got this letter. I don't understand it. Can you help me understand what they're wanting here, what I need to do with it? Or, hey, I'm having trouble getting my medication refilled and I don't know what to do. Or, gee, they turned my power off. I don't think I paid my bill this month. They have somebody right there on site that can help take care of those things. And that's supported living where they're independently living, but they've got that backup just in case. And I love seeing those pop up in different forms and fashions. You do have to be careful if you're looking at supported living, though, because I have run into instances where some places will try to market themselves as supported living when they're actually group homes. So the difference in the two, if you don't know what the difference is, a group home is where you have kind of a bigger building and each person gets their individual bedroom, but all the other areas are shared. And there's constantly staff there to be caregivers to those people. So that's a group home, and you can range in age in that anywhere from younger, like 18, 19, all the way up to 80 and 90 years old. So you have to be really careful. And the supported living is more, anyone can still live there, but you have your own apartment unit, or you and a roommate have it. So that's the difference there. You'd have your entire dwelling to yourself versus just a bedroom.
Right.
So the last thing in that is to make sure that you have the financial aspects in place. And that goes to the welfare. Disability income, if your government provides that, depending on where you are in the world. Healthcare coverage. Again, that looks differently depending on where you live. Here where I live, they have Medicaid waivers, and it's a process to get approved for those. And in fact, That's one of the things I recommend people do early if they're going to go that route, because my daughter, for example, sat on a waiting list for 10 years
Oh, wow.
before she got her support. So make sure that that is part of your planning and you look into that. The other thing you want to do is look into long-term care insurance for yourself, because the last thing you want to do is set up these financial parameters to take care of your child, and then you become elderly and ill and you use up all those resources to take care of yourself. So make sure you've got long-term care insurance. Make sure if you're working, you have short-term or long-term disability for yourself in case something happens. So you're not losing that income and you can still provide that for your loved one with autism.
Right, right. Now you mentioned setting up the Medicaid waivers early, like how early? I know you said 10 years for your daughter. I mean, do you recommend when they're like in kindergarten or?
I would say I would start no later than maybe age 10.
Okay.
You can do it earlier depending on your child's needs and what your state offers. Here in the US, each state has a different program. And so you really have to just educate yourself on, okay, for instance, I live in Virginia. So I'm very well versed in the Virginia system. That's one of the things that I help teach people locally, is how to maneuver the system, when you need to apply for what qualifies you, what doesn't qualify you, how to speak to the evaluator when you're being evaluated for those services, because there's different ways to say things that equal the same thing. And that's for myself. I have a background in physical therapy. And so that's where my medical background really comes in, because you can teach people how to word it in that way that really paints the accurate picture, but it's going to resonate more with the evaluator and really kind of give you that extra little bit of help on your side to get past the gate to get the services that they need.
Right, right. So then, can you outline the different long-term care options that are available to individuals with autism?
Well, again, that varies by where you're living. You want to make sure that you're not leaving money, especially financially, directly to them. You want to make sure that you look into what's available. I know certain tools that near here in the US and where I live are having a special needs trust set up, so that if you die and your insurance goes to them, it's not going directly to them, because you want to make sure that you're not disqualifying them for services because they have too much money at hand. If you put it into the special needs trust, then it can go towards them via a trustee, but it doesn't count as direct income to them, and they'll still qualify for disability, for Medicaid, and the other services that they need. There's also things called ABLE accounts, which are achieving a better life experience. And again, that money doesn't count against them, but they do have to use it for certain things. It can only be applied to things that will enrich or enhance their life. If you have, for example, let's say they need a walk-in shower put in, they can use it for that. And there's a whole bunch of different parameters that they can use that for, but it can only go towards certain things. So they can't spend it on just any old thing. And so that's another option that you can look into. It's very similar to here we have the 509 plan, 529 plan, where people can put money aside for their kids for college. It's kind of under that umbrella, but it's different. It's just for special needs. So you want to look into that. And again, networking and researching are very important for that, because you're going to find out these things. And I have found too that people have gone through it themselves really have those tips and tricks to really help you find out, okay, what do I do in this instance or that instance, or what kinds of things should I not say, or how can I say it this way instead of that way, so that I'm not shooting myself in the foot and eliminating this for my child's benefit. The other thing you want to do is make sure that you are considering the correct insurance. We talked a little bit about that with the disability and the long-term care insurance, but you also want to think about life insurance because as parents, we're not going to live forever. And we need to make sure that we have those plans in place so that our kids and loved ones are taken care of. So you want to make sure that you're setting up the life insurance. And again, you can have them as the beneficiary via some kind of mechanism like the special needs trust or something like that, so that they can get that funding and have that nest egg without it taken away from their services that they currently get.
Right, right. Yeah. And anything that is passed on to them, they probably want to have a will set up too, so that they can set up a special needs trust if they need to.
Absolutely. And not only that, you have to have a will because you're going to name who you want to step in and be the guardian or legal person for your loved one with autism, and you are going to name them. You have to choose them and say that. And that makes it a lot easier for them to just slide right in the role and not just go through months and months and sometimes years of court issues and the whole time then your loved one's sitting there with everything up in the air. They don't have that stability. And as we know, people with autism need routine.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're messing up their routine because it's the court things, not only are they dealing with you not being there anymore, then they're dealing with I don't have my routine. I don't know what's going on. I don't know who's supposed to help me. Where do I go? What do I do? And these are all things that are easily taken care of that they should not have to be asking themselves during that time where they're grieving as well.
Right. And do you recommend that, that the parents, whoever they do choose, that they make that person the guardian of their child, or, or discuss that with their child? This person is going to be your caregiver or helper, in the future.
Right. I think obviously you want to start with the person that would be the caregiver and make sure that they're okay with it, that they understand exactly what their responsibilities would be and that they accept that on themselves, because you don't want to pick somebody who doesn't want to do it, because then you're in a whole different set of problems. So make sure first you talk to the person that you want to do it and make sure they're up for the task. You're going to have everything organized for them. You're going to have a binder or envelope of some sort that has all the instructions in it. This is what they need. Here's their doctors. Here's their contact information. Here's like everything all together so that person can walk right in and they'll know exactly where it is. Everything will be laid out exactly what they need and everything will transition smoothly. So once you've got that part set up, then what you want to do is you want to go talk to your autistic loved one but you want to feed it to them in small pieces because you don't want them to get overwhelmed. It should be, hey, everything's going to be okay. If anything ever happened to me, Aunt Janie, don't worry about a thing. She's going to come check on you, make sure you're okay. And however that works for your child, and just kind of give it to them in pieces over time so that they know exactly what to expect. You can even show them the binder and say, if anything happens to me, Aunt Janie's going to come over and she's going to go right in this binder and look, all your favorite things are here. All of this is here. You can just show them, I have a plan. It's okay. You don't have to worry. And make sure that you have that written down somewhere as well, maybe as part of your will, where you say, I appoint such and such. And you mentioned guardianship. Mm-hmm. That's not a simple question as it may sound. As we know, autism is a spectrum disorder. And so you have anyone from the nonverbal who's unable to physically take care of themselves, all the way up to the more Asperger and the ones that are able to work and those kind of things and everything else in between. So I can't just give a blanket statement to say absolutely 100% get guardianship.
Mhm.
What you can do is you can speak to your estate planner, and you know your child best.
Mhm.
So what you can do is get more information about that and try to decide, do I need full guardianship, or do I set up a supported decision making document to where my child can make these decisions fine on their own, but when it comes to these over here, they're going to need support from the legal supervising person that I appoint.
Right, right.
It's very, that's a very big question. That's a good, it's tough. It really is. I know a lot of parents wrestled with that. I know as a parent, I wrestled with that for a couple of years. And ultimately, you have to make the decision that's best for your family.
Right, right. So you did mention insurance policies. Are there specific ones that parents should consider for long-term care?
Again, that depends on where you live as to what they'll cover and how much coverage they'll need. I would definitely recommend consulting with an insurance agent that specializes in that, where you can really explain that your needs and they can really point you in the right direction that's also going to fit your budget and make sure you get covered. Nowadays, there's insurance for everything, everything. And it's there again, that's a little bit of a broad question where I can't really give a blanket answer, but you can definitely be pointed in that direction from your insurance agent and your estate planner. If they specialize in special needs, they may even have some resources they could give you on that and say, hey, I live here, you live here. These are the local guys that handle that information. And there are also places out on the web that they're putting together resources like that, where you can actually get, as a provider, you can go get listed on the websites for free. So that if somebody goes, I need an estate planner in Nebraska near X, Y, and Z, and they'll pull up ones in your area. And
Mhm.
also, if you're networking with your local and state and even national or international organizations, they're also going to have connections and contacts in those more local areas where you can find people that you can go down and see that live nearby.
Mhm. Right, right. Um, so then what types of support services are essential for individuals with autism as they transition into adulthood?
Absolutely. You want to make sure that you have their health coverage covered. Different areas have different rules. Sometimes it's up to age 26, they can stay on your insurance. It just depends on your country or where you live. So make sure you're looking into that with your own insurance company. Then you want to make sure that you're working on an alternative and preparing ahead of time so that okay, at 26, I can't have them on my insurance anymore. What's the next step? Oh, well, they need a Medicaid waiver. Well, how do we do that? When do we do that? Make sure that's part of your plan and plan early. But again, if you don't plan early, it's never too late. You can always start. So that's definitely something you want to consider. You also have local resources like the Autism Society of America, if you live in the US, is a big one. They have local chapters throughout the US that you can go to, and they have lots of information on local events, caregivers, transportation, and those types of things. If your loved one can't drive and you live in a more rural area, you need to look into, well, how are they going to get to and from appointments and those types of things. A lot of places do have some sort of transportation. Here we have, where I live, they have what's called Bait Aging, and they have kind of a little van or a little bus that'll go around if you call ahead of time, and they'll take you to the store, to your medical appointments, different places like that. Medicaid here also offers transportation as well. So you want to make sure that you are not just finding them a place to live. Obviously, if they're going to live independently, you want to find them somewhere to live. But you also have to think about transportation. You have to think about, do they need someone to come in and do the things we talked about in the supported living earlier, where they make sure they're taking their meds, they make sure they're getting enough to eat, they're keeping clean, keeping up with their hygiene, all those little things that you need to live independently.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about. So then how can families navigate the complexities of Medicaid and Medicare in relation to autism care?
Absolutely. I would definitely, obviously, I keep saying network. I know I keep saying that, but it is so hugely important. Most of what I know about our local waivers, I didn't learn as a healthcare worker.
Mhm.
I learned from other parents in the area and from research. And of course, now we have a lot more internet information out there, but that's not going to tell you the ins and outs and the details and the fine things. So you want to make sure that you find someone in your area that's connected with that, gone through that. The Autism Society of America, I know Autism Speaks has information like that. And people like myself that have autism advocacy and coaching businesses that have resources like that. Or, for example, if someone were to come to me, for example, and they need vocational coaching, that's not something I do, but I know somebody who does. And I can say, you know what, let me get you in contact with this person who might be able to help you with what you need. Or let me call this organization that I found out about that has scholarships for that, or just different things that you learn by networking. So Medicare and Medicaid also, they're supposed to have case managers and things like that that are supposed to walk you through the process. And in reality, unfortunately, sometimes that doesn't work as well as it could. And so I always recommend having that backup, having somebody that has walked that path and knows the ins and outs that can say, okay, if this person should be doing X, Y, and Z. If they're not doing that, then this is what you do.
Right.
Kind of have a plan and then a backup plan. As far as Medicare, that is something that's managed more through disability, which is Social Security here in the US. And what you want to do is you can reach out to them via phone. You can make an appointment to go down and talk to them. They have a lot of information on their website that you can get as well. And there are a lot of organizations that are now working on coming alongside parents for this very thing. And a lot of them don't charge.
Mhm.
So you can get those for free, which is always nice.
Great. So, and like I know you mentioned with the networking, I know that's really important because like sometimes just learning from other people's mistakes when they say, I did this or I was headed down this path and then, I found this instead, that can be really helpful just to kind of take a shortcut almost and not go the wrong path and end up with all kinds of issues. So yeah, no, it is very important to have networking.
Absolutely. And I learned that throughout my own journey as well. My daughter's 27 now, so she's a little bit older. She's an adult. She lives out on her own and has these different supports. But we didn't get there overnight.
Right.
Definitely not. And there are a lot of things that I learned along that journey that I wish someone had told me.
Right.
And so just like you're saying, I went through those bumpy roads. I know X, Y, and Z. So let me help this other family so they don't have to go through what I went through. And there's so many people out there like that. It really is a family. I call it a club. It's like when you have a child with diagnosis of autism, you become a member of this club.
Right.
And only people that are in the club really understand what it's like to be in the club. And that's where you're going to find that support, that understanding. They're going to help you with joy and enthusiasm because they know, hey, somebody either did that for them or somebody's going to do that for them. And so it's all about, it's like one big family. We're going to lift each other up. We're going to help each other because it's not about us. It's about elevating the autism community and helping them become independent, fulfilled, and productive adults in society. And that's what we all want, because we all love our families and our kids, and we want them to be happy and successful.
Yeah, absolutely. So what community resources are available to help families in the long-term care planning process?
Absolutely. You can start with your local social services offices. They do have a long-term care division that you can speak to about that and find out different pieces there. You can also apply for the Medicaid waivers at your social services office. You can go to Social Security, find out what the qualifications are for disability, when to apply, how to apply, what are the qualifications, and things like that. You can look up the local estate planners, lawyers, and things like that. Some of them actually will specialize in special needs.
Right.
And so, again, using that network to kind of find those resources, they're going to kind of say, hey, the best local guy is going to be, Mr. James over here. He is great. So and so used them, and he was fantastic. If you don't have a network like that, if you live extremely rural, then you've got the internet and online where you can really, especially with AI searches now, you can really go on and be very specific. And in an instant, they can search, multiple places on the web and come up with, hey, these are the guys that are listed in your area. Mm-hmm. And one thing that AI is looking for, rather than just Google, is they don't just look for, well, who's out there. They look for who is proven to be real, mm-hmm. trusted, and referable. Those are the things that the criteria it looks at before it pulls up someone to recommend. So that's another layer that you can keep in mind when you're going to search on the internet, where you search AI based versus just, normal searching.
Right. Yeah. You still want to do your due diligence though, and just make sure that, it is a true person, and, do you
100%. Absolutely. Make sure you're getting references, make sure you're checking the reviews. And again, ask around, say, hey, I saw this guy and this guy. Does anybody know them? You can get on actually groups online too. It's not just local networks, but mm-hmm. you can get on Facebook groups and a lot of different things there and say, hey, I live here. What does anybody know anything about this person? And kind of get information from them. Of course, Autism Parenting Magazine is also a good resource that you can use, with lots of resource information in there as well. And we know that that's more of a trusted publication that vets their people. They're, not just going to throw anybody in there. So definitely getting it from a trusted resource helps.
Absolutely. So then what legal documents should parents have in place to ensure that their child's needs are met after their lifetime?
You want to make sure that you have a will. Mm-hmm. And in the will, you want to make sure that it includes what your child's needs are, who you want to fulfill those needs, and how you want your funds to be dispersed. Mm-hmm. So you also want to have within that estate planning document, you're going to have who you name as the legal representative for your child. I don't want to say guardian because they might not need full guardianship, but who is going to be in your stead. So when it comes to legal decisions, who has the legal right to call the doctor and check on them? Who has the legal right to, we're going to check up on this particular resource. You have to have a document that states, hey, this is who I want to do it, and have them sign off on that. So that needs to be in your packet. Make sure you have that in your will. You also want to make sure that you have financial planning and financial literacy in there. And there are tons of people out there now that are doing financial planning, and a lot of them also service people with special needs. And so you want to make sure that you are taking that into account, that you are not just letting the government and the insurance agencies do with it what they want, but that you're having that go to what's best for your child. So you want to have the will, you want to have the guardian ad litem, or the legal person that's going to be in charge, and what to do with the money. Also, if there's property, same thing. You want to state in there if your child's going to be able to remain living on your property, and who's going to be responsible for maintaining the taxes and things like that on the property. Make sure you don't leave any stone unturned. Make sure you're very, very specific. If you have cars, same thing. Any property, any asset that you have, you want to make sure that you're specifically delineating exactly what you want to do with that. You can't be too specific.
Right. No, that's true. I know I was my sister's legal guardian. And I mean, unless it was all spelled out, there'd be times where, I'd have to actually prove, yes, I am the person, because,
Yeah.
you come across different scenarios where, they do question, and you have to make sure that you cross all your T's and dot all your I's. So,
Yeah. And even if you're not legal guardian, you can still do a power of attorney. And
right.
there's different ones. You can do medical power of attorney, which is just for medical decisions. You can do financial power of attorney, and you can do what I call legal power of attorney, where that, if it comes to any legal decisions and things like that. So make sure that you are, again, being very specific. I know, having had a career in healthcare, that we have to be so specific. We can't even talk to you about that person without the original document, not a copy, the original document, either in our hand, or you take it up and we scan it in. So it's, make sure you know where that stuff is. And again, that's where that binder you're going to have, or envelope, where you have that all laid out, so that if the person that is taking over comes in, they know exactly where all that information is.
Right.
And there's no question. They don't have to go rooting through a bunch of papers. It's, here it is. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, that is important. So, what strategies can families employ to coordinate care among different providers?
That is an excellent question. And what I always recommend is to make sure you have something that's central, so that you can track everything. I'm a binder girl.
Yeah,
I like binders. So I always had binder for this, binder for that. And then sometimes it would come together. Anytime I made a phone call, I would write down who I called, what number I called, what date and time I called, who I spoke to, and what they said. So that way, if I had to follow up with that person again, or that entity again, I had specific information that I could say, well, Jenny back on the 3rd at 12 o'clock when I called told me X, Y, and Z, and I'm calling to follow up like she told me to, because it's 3 days later.
Right.
And that works well if, again, these people are supposed to be communicating with each other, but unfortunately that doesn't always get to happen. So you have to be that central point. You have to know what's going on with everybody all the time. And so if you have that centralized communication book or notebook or binder, that way, if, Jane calls you from one agency about what Jenny's doing over here, you can say, oh, I talked to Jenny the other day. This is what she said. You can give her a call, or, hey, I'll forward you that email. Email's great, because then you have another source of written documentation. In healthcare, it's beat into our heads. If it's not documented, it didn't happen. So I'm very big on documentation. Have that paper, have that resource, have printouts of those emails. It takes a little work, yes, but it's going to save you so many headaches.
Right.
And that is what I would definitely recommend. And you should teach all that to the person that's going to then take over your estate, because they're going to need to know how to do that.
So, And a lot of times, like people, like they change hands, different people come into the different
Yeah.
positions. And so, you were speaking to somebody, but at least you have the notes of what they said and you can pass that on to the next person.
Exactly. That's how I ended up getting my daughter her special needs housing voucher, because here in the state of Virginia, they have those, but they only come available once in a while. There's a fixed number. So the
Mhm.
only times one comes up is if somebody is either no longer eligible or they pass away, and then it goes up for the next person. And I found out because my friend called me from my
Mhm.
network and
Right.
said, "Hey, there's a couple vouchers open. You might want to look into it." Well, the lady that was processing the voucher applications was in the process of retiring, and she was only going to be there for 2 more weeks.
Mhm.
And I was going, "Oh no, who am I going to talk to now?" And trying to get all that information together. And here she retired, and nobody else in that office was covering her desk or her things.
Oh, boy.
So I ended up having to call the director, who of course didn't know anything about it. And he's like, "Well, let me look into it." And then, within about a week and a half, I had her special needs housing voucher, because you have to be proactive. That's
Right.
another huge thing, is don't wait for them to call you. If they say, "Oh, we'll be in touch," ask them specifically, "When should I reach out if I don't hear from you by?"
Right. Right.
I always ask that question. And then they go, I said, "Well, how about next Friday I give you a call?"
Yeah.
Be specific. Don't leave it up to ambiguity. You want to make sure
Mhm.
that they know that you have a time frame. And now
Mhm.
you've put them on notice, not in
Mhm.
a bad way or ugly way, but they know that you're going to be on top of it
Right.
and that you're going to be following up. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's that squeaky wheel gets the grease kind of situation, where if they know you're going to be a squeaky wheel, they're going to
Mhm.
make sure they stay on top of your stuff.
Right. Right. And you're just being proactive. So,
Yes, you're advocating. You're
mhm.
not being ugly. You're not being mean. You are your child's best advocate, no matter how old they are
Right.
or what situation it's in. You know them best. You are their advocate. And I know we touched on it a little bit, but teaching the person that's going to be taking over those responsibilities, those skills, because advocating is a skill.
Yeah.
And it's something that we learn over time. It's not just, oh, we magically wake up one day and know how to do that. You learn as you go. And so teaching them that skill is going to make it a lot better for your child as well.
Absolutely. So, how can parents ensure continuity of care as their child moves into different living situations?
Absolutely. Obviously, the communication, like we talked about just a little bit ago, making sure that you are the one communicating to the different entities. Say, "Hey, my son is moving into this apartment on such and such a date. Are you the one that's going to be seeing him there? Who covers that area? Who do I need to talk to make sure they know he transitioned, and just for them to come out and schedule an appointment to meet with him?"
Mhm.
"Oh, such and such, do you have their phone number? Do you know what their time frame is?" Those types of things. And just be that voice where you can say, "Hey, I need to make sure that what you're getting in home that supports you to be successful will transition over to your apartment." This is something that the case manager should be doing. But again, it's not always happening. So I always tell parents, if you have a great case manager, that is fantastic. You still want to be communicating with them, making sure that they've got everything lined up. Maybe you know about something that they didn't realize your child had, and so it's a piece that might get missed.
Right.
If you don't have a great case manager, you can still get everything that you need, but you have to be that voice.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
make sure, what I always did too, and again, I have that if it's not documented, it didn't happen background from healthcare. So, for example, when my daughter would go to the next level of school, at the beginning of school, and I know we're talking more about adults, but the philosophy applies. Um, every year at the beginning of the year, I would make up little packets for all her teachers and her bus driver because my daughter had seizures. I felt like that was important for the bus driver to know.
Absolutely.
And I just had a little, this is what you need to know about my child. Or if it was for the teacher, it was, this is what you need to know about my child. Oh, and by the way, here's a copy of her IEP.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just have those little tools ready so that, let's say you had a case manager, but they quit or moved on, or they're sick or they're on vacation, and somebody else new is coming in. Well, they don't know your child. They don't know what they need. They don't know anything. And you can have just that little tool ready to put in their hand and say, here, let me give you this little introductory packet that I made to introduce you to my child.
Right.
And it makes a huge difference. So
Yeah,
that's
and
something you can do. Yeah.
they
And
can never say they didn't know, you know.
yes, yes. And I was like, well, remember when I gave you that packet? It was on page 3. If you go back and look.
Right, right.
And the other thing you can do is prepare your child.
Mm-hmm.
Prepare your child, walk them through the apartment beforehand. Make sure you're not just taking them there and kind of dropping them off. Make sure they're active in picking out what's going to go there.
Mm-hmm.
Take them to the store and say, oh, you know, hey, you're going to have this other room. You're going to have 2 rooms now if you have a 2-bedroom apartment or something. Wouldn't it be cool to make that a gaming room? What do you think about that? Or you can make that your TikTok studio, or, you know, something like that. And then go, oh, let's go pick out some things that would look really cool in a gaming room.
Mm-hmm.
You know, get them excited about it. Get them excited about, oh, I can't wait to get there. I can't wait to have my own gaming room. I've never had one of those before. And also, you want to put little facilitations in place. Make sure that if they need a schedule, sit down with them and say, okay, they might not even realize that they have a schedule or a routine because it's just been their life for how many years.
Yeah.
You know, when you have a child with autism, your life becomes one big compensatory strategy and you don't even realize it. So you want to make sure that you're transferring those over to their new place.
Mm-hmm.
Sit down with them and go, hey, this is your routine. And I'm gonna let's write this up as a little schedule, and we'll keep it in your drawer. And if you ever need it, you can pull it out and say, okay, all right, Wednesdays, this is what I do. Or Fridays, this is what I do. Or make them a calendar, set reminders on their phone, things like that they're going to have to take care of that maybe you kind of helped with a little bit. And what you do before they transition is you want to make sure you're working with them on that skill. So if they're transitioning as an adult to independent living or supported living, you want to say, okay, well, Tuesday is your laundry day. You know, make sure they get used to that. Okay, Tuesday is laundry day. Well, what does that mean? Can they use the washing machine? Go to the new place where they're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that washing machine and say, is that different from mine?
Right. Use it.
Yeah, because just because they can do laundry on this washing machine doesn't mean they're going to know how to use that one.
Mm-hmm.
You have to think about all the little things. How do you use the shower? Is it a different button? Does it look different? When you're taking them through their apartment, show them, say, hey, this is how this shower works. I'm going to have that in your book in the drawer. So if you ever get stuck, you can pull it out, you know, or have it or laminate it and put it on the wall.
Mm-hmm. Right, right.
I did that a lot. That was our huge thing. And I mentioned the washing machine specifically because when we moved into our house, we got a new washing machine and it wasn't a dial one, it was the push button one. And my daughter freaked out because she didn't know how to use it. So I went online and I got pictures of our actual machine and I took little screenshot things and I wrote out, okay, step 1, push this button. This is what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Step 2, you know, and then just laminate it, put it right on the wall. No problem. So
that's great. Yeah, that's a great idea.
And make sure that whoever's coming into the house, whether it's a provider or your case manager or whomever, gets a copy of those
Mm-hmm.
so that they know, okay, this is what, Andrew needs in his new apartment. This is how he's doing that particular activity. So if he gets to a day where he's stuck and having a problem and his emotions are escalating and he's heading towards a meltdown, they might be able to know, hey, there's a book in your house that has the information. Let me grab that and let me show you. It's okay. It's right here in the book. You don't have to worry. It's all right. I got you,
Mm-hmm.
and de-escalate that situation and teach them how to use that tool and to help regulate themselves as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. So, as far as siblings, how can siblings be involved in the long-term care planning process?
Well, first of all, it's very important for them not to feel like they're forced.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, you're their sister, you're going to take care of them. No, you have to say, hey, would you be open to doing this should something happen to it? Or if they say, well, yeah, but I don't think I can do it all by myself, maybe I can do this or I can't do that. Make clear what the responsibilities are before you have the conversation. Have a list. These are all the things that we do for them.
Right.
Are you comfortable doing them all?
Mm-hmm.
Could you do some? Could you do some and hire a caregiver?
Mm-hmm.
Could you do some and make sure that the caregiver that Medicaid pays for to come in is doing these other things over here? And just have an open, very open conversation, very honest conversation of, look, we don't want you to feel like this person is a burden to you, because I know that's not sort of a PC word, but that's what people think and that's what they say and talk about. I don't want to be a burden to anybody. you know
Right.
I worked in therapy for 30 years, and I heard family members say that all the time. I don't want to be a burden to my family. And so just have that open conversation. Let's say, for example, you have a sister and the sister says, absolutely, I'm happy to do it. But I don't really know some of those techniques that your ABA therapist taught you. Can I
Mm-hmm.
come over someday when they're doing that with them so that I can learn that technique so that I can help them when the time comes?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And then have the actual autistic person participate too. Once you've spoken privately with the sibling and they've agreed, have them come in and say, hey, guess what? Your sister is awesome. She's going to look after you if anything happens to us. Do you have any questions for her? Is
Mm-hmm.
there anything you would worry about? Is there anything specific you want her to know or do?
Right.
Because the time to ask them that is not when they're in crisis.
Right. Right.
It's when they're having a good day, they're in, a good place, and say, hey, we're going to have this talk as a family. And you don't have to make it all formal. We're going to have this talk, just say, hey, Janie's coming over for dinner tonight and we're going to have a talk about X, Y, and Z. you know,
Yeah,
make it fun, make it a planning party.
right. Yeah.
We're going to have pizza and soda, and we're going to have this big board where we're going to put these pictures up on it of things we want to do, or where I would want Janie to take me if we had to move somewhere, or whatever it is. Make it fun, make it interaction, so that they have a say and everyone is comfortable and has a say in it as well.
Yeah. Now that preparation is just so important, that everybody's on the same page too.
Well, and do it in bites too. It can be a lot. People,
Right.
I think in general, siblings have a little bit better picture if they've grown up in the house with the autistic person. But let's say it's, Aunt Jane
Mhm.
instead of Sister Jane, it's Aunt Jane. And they've been around, they love their nephew, they know their nephew, but they might not fully understand. It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of skill. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of consistent effort. And it's not something you can stop. You can't turn it on and off. Okay, I'm going to work on it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but by Thursday, I'm just going to, take a break and not do all of the strategies I need to do to facilitate this person's day. You can't do that. So it's a lot. So make sure that they're coming in and, even if they're just kind of a fly on the wall, observing all the things that you need to do. Talk specific about, hey, these are trigger words. You can't really use these words, but if you say this instead, it's going to be fine. My daughter hated the word chores. Don't say chores. They're not chores. I hate chores. But if I said, hey, you have some tasks you have to take care of tonight, absolutely fine. So little things like that are eccentric just to that individual could go a long way to helping them both.
So how can families address the emotional impact of long-term planning on their child with autism?
That again kind of depends on your child. Some children you can just have a talk about it. I have some friends who their adult children with autism have gained a lot of insight into themselves and just really learned like, hey, I understand my emotions better now. I know that these are my triggers. I know that, when I hear this or do this, and I realized when I was younger that I couldn't regulate that, but now I have strategies. So, but then I have other adults where they're not as in tune with their emotions. They still struggle with that. It's still difficult for them. So you want to make sure that you're doing it at a pace that your child can understand. Some kids, you can have the whole kit and caboodle talk with them. Some kids, you don't. If you start to talk about it too much, it's going to become overwhelmed and they're going to shut down, and then they're going to stress out about it and possibly melt down, which we don't want. So make sure that you are, treating them as a person, obviously, because a person first. They're a person and they're an adult. They're an adult person. They're not, I say child, but they're not a child anymore. They're an adult. So make sure that you are giving them what they can handle as much as they can handle, but break it down into pieces. Some people, like I know, for example, if you have more of an engineering mind, you're going to want to know A through Z, how does each one fit and work? You're going to want to know all that information. And that's what makes you feel peaceful and good. But someone else who is more right-brained, like I am, you give us too much and it's just overload. So make sure too that you have it in a place that's written down. Again, going back to that binder, it's written down so that, let's say one day your child becomes curious about it, or they've been thinking about it and it's been bothering them because you are a staple in their life. You are stability, you are understanding, you are love, you are resources, you are everything. And when they think about you not being there, it can be very overwhelming. So make sure that they have somewhere they can go. If they want to go read it on their own, if they want to look through it, if they need pictures, have pictures, make a scrapbook and have the words and the pictures and say, hey, here's Aunt Jane. This is her picture. Look, that's you and Aunt Jane when you went to, Disney World. Something like that, where, okay, Aunt Jane's going to be coming to take care of me. Oh, Aunt Jane is good. She took me to Disney World. We're okay. Something that's on their level that they can understand and that they have access to, that they can also look at their own pace.
Right. Now, I know we talked about emotions. What about resources? What's available for the well-being of the parents as they navigate through this process? Because it is a tough process.
Absolutely. I know we've said it 100 times, but networking, other parents, and sometimes you're all in the same boat. And I know that as parents with autistic kids and autistic adults, we tend to hold a lot of things and we don't always share, because a lot of times our experience has been that the neurotypical world isn't going to get it. They're going to judge me. They're going to say mean things. They're going to make me feel like a terrible parent. So you don't want to share. And it can be hard for us to admit, I am overwhelmed. I am having challenges. I am becoming depressed. I need help. And so, asking for help is not a weakness. It's not a sign of failure. We're human beings. And even though we're super mom or super dad, we're still people.
Right.
And we have to take care of us because, again, I can only be as good of a helper to my child as I am myself. If I'm running on empty, I got nothing to give. So seeking counseling if you need it, talking to your physician or even a psychiatrist if you need medication or if you need talk therapy or if you need to find a group of, for me, I had my scrapbooking ladies. So, once a month I'd go and I would just kind of unwind. We would talk and have a good time. And it was a nice little break, filled my tank back up, and then I could go home and do what I needed to do. So making sure that you have those activities and resources that you can fall back on, not just professionally, but even in your personal life. If you're part of a church, talk to the ladies at your church or your Sunday school class or whoever that support group is for you. Maybe someone doesn't like doing it in person and they'd rather talk to people online. Go into your Facebook group for autism and say, hey, I'm really struggling today. I just keep hitting a wall with this. And it's not necessarily that you want people to solve your problem. You just need someone to come along and say, I get it. I get it. That was me last week. It's going to be okay. We're here for you. You're not alone. We've got your back. It's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay to stay that way.
Right. So, what's the most common mistake that families make in planning for long-term care?
Obviously, I think one of the big mistakes they make is not starting early enough. Not starting early enough. As soon as your kids are little, even, you should have a will. Anybody should, but especially when you find out, oh gosh, my child was just diagnosed with autism. Okay, I need to make sure I take steps to make sure that they're taken care of because something can happen to us at any time. We're finite beings. You could be in a car accident on your way home from work, and that's it. And then what happens? What happens to your child then? So you start early and make sure, and that can change over time. Let's say you made a will when they were 5, and now things are a little bit different. Maybe you have more assets, or you learned, oh gosh, I need to change that because I found out about these special needs trust. I need to get that. It can be a fluid document where it changes over time, but make sure you have that in place.
And final advice, what final advice would you give to families who are just beginning their long-term care planning journey?
If you didn't start early, don't beat yourself up. It is never too late. As long as you have breath in your lungs, there is still time. And you don't have to do it all at once. And you don't have to know everything. You can do it step by step. There are people out there that will support you every step of the way. And you're not alone. You're not an island. It's that old cliche, it takes a village. It really, really does. But we can feel like we're living on islands. It can feel very isolating. And just, you're not alone.
Well, Susan, I want to thank you so much for this session that we had and answering all the questions and just providing all that information for our parents, because this is really an important topic. And I know I'm sure every single parent that crosses their minds and they're probably wondering, when do I begin and what do I do? So I feel like you've answered everybody's questions and, provided a lot of really helpful information. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you. And for the rest of you, thank you all for joining us today. So be sure to check out our session schedule for the upcoming days, and we have many more inspiring presentations with experts across the spectrum. So thank you.